Who's next?
Hi. 2 years ago, I left a relationship that you might say you performed the divorce here at Lama, and and I left the relationship because the man who I was really loved very much was really a sexual addict and couldn't give up being with other women, and I went into my fear of being lonely and alone and have really gone through a tremendous transformation. And during that time, in the last 2 years, my life has become very full, and I feel very connected to God, especially through nature. I have a lot of heart connections in my life, but the heart connection I'm yearning for has not manifested. And I have suddenly, in the last few weeks, come face to face with what I'm seeing as my own addiction, which is to connect in a loving way with a man, and how I act that out sexually. And I don't know, there's a question in here, but it's more of a very painful dilemma in which I don't know what to do with the fire. And I
hear.
Okay.
I'm sure you're not alone in that predicament.
I feel alone in it.
No, you're not. Believe me. If you scratch the surface of many people, you find the same situation. There's two parts to the question: is how do we understand intimacy, and what do we do with our yearning for intimacy? And the other is, what do you do with the energy? Intimacy between two human beings has the potential of being one of the most evolved ways of coming into spirit and coming back home. The intimacy that occurs when two people share awareness, when they have transcended the boundaries of separateness for the moment, whether it's through sexuality or through the quality of trust and love that develops, until there is this awareness that they both feel that they are holding together, they're present in and delighting in separateness, and yet the experience of unity is a very highly treasured quality in the human condition, and it is a path to God. What it is that's being yearned for is the feeling that is the product of the method. That is, what you're yearning for is that feeling of being peaceful, being at home, feeling warm, feeling safe, etc. The method of getting there is the relationship with another person. The relationship with another person isn't the end point. It's the process to get to that state of, that you're not feeling. Right? So often the attachment to the method gets in the way of realizing the real thing about what the method was for, which is to feel that feeling of peace in one's being, and at homeness and safety and softness and openness. Now the kind of elaborate when you start to work with sexual energy in relationship, the delicate line between where the sex is in the service of the love, or the sex is in the service of the increasing the oneness, when it goes over the line into the greed for gratification, or what's called lust, which is my need to use you to satisfy me, in which the person becomes an object, which takes you away from the place ultimately that you want to be. Although, see, can you hear the complexity of it? I mean, I'm playing with the edge of something, because what happens is when you use lust to get to God, I mean, sexual lust with another person to get to God, you're using a method which separates you in order for the moment of transcendence when you transcend the separateness. But because of how you got to there, the minute the orgasm occurs, you're back in your separateness again. And you're back in a cruel way, in an interesting way. I mean, there is a cruelty to lust, as many of you recognize, I think, as opposed to sex that comes out of a quality of deep attunement and oneness with another human being. And just why your last relationship came unglued, which is because you couldn't transcend the objectness that sex gave rise to, the feeling of, in a way, that your partner was more attached to that gratification, to the, well, let's strike this for a moment, let's not go that direction. See, the harsh answer, the harsh spiritual answer, which we in the West aren't able to handle because of our myths and our models and the way we deal with personality, is Ramana Maharshi's line about sexuality between people. He says, what is it when two bodies rub together? What is it? And from that point of view, people only come together to procreate. That's it. It's the only reason from an evolved sexuality. And what's interesting is you get to the point with another human being where you are so intimately with them in oneness that to come down into a practice, to come to oneness, takes you away from where you already are. It's interesting to be in love with somebody so much that the sexuality can be a play that comes out of that oneness, but no longer, since it's previously been used as a method to get you to the oneness. It's like if you're in Detroit, you don't have to take a bus to Detroit, put crudely. That once you understand where you're going with another human being, where you're going into the space of oneness, you realize that sex, the foreplay and sexuality is a method. It is a method to bring you into union. And it's an exquisitely beautiful method. And obviously it's a profound method because it keeps the species going. But we have overlaid it with a tremendous psychodynamic, tremendously complex set of rules and needs and gratifications and theory and myth and so on. So that most of the time people are having sex in their heads. I mean, they are really making love with their own fantasy life, which is part of the horror of lust. So I haven't known how to quite say it. I've said, make love only with your friends. It's one of the ways I started to say it. Of get to know somebody and open to them through truth and trust and hold back on the sexuality to the point where it's irrelevant. Then you can have a ball. But when you need it, you've got to watch out that it doesn't come back and hit you in the head. That's what I mean when I say crudely, screw your friends. You know, I mean in gross terms. Right? Now, See, after living with somebody where I was absolutely delighted and thrilled and loved the intimacy of it and fed on it, and it was a deep feeding for me, I also saw that that wasn't the path that was suitable for me at this moment. And I saw why, and I understood it, and I can't go into all the details, but I understood that. And you can raise questions about it, but from my point of view, it was clear. And I am now living alone. And when I live alone, there is loneliness that arises. And that when you go to bed, it would be nice to have somebody's warm feet to snuggle with and so on, and all that sort of thing. And I miss it. But that's okay. That's okay, because there is a way in which the complexity of that dance masks the deeper truth of it. I would suggest, I guess I'm tough in this, I would suggest that you allow yourself the grieving, and allow yourself the sadness, and allow yourself the loss, and allow yourself the I don't have what I want, and grieve and cry and do what you need to do until you can say, okay, and here I am.